Hello everyone, my name is Caleb and this is my house, the Charles S. Brown house, built in 1889 by, you guessed it, Charles S. Brown, who is a woodworking manufacturer here in St. Louis. His company was the Hall & Brown Woodworking Machine Company. So this house in itself was built for a man who was obsessed by making the best machines to make the best woodwork. So lots of really amazing woodwork, lots of really amazing stories and history I've been able to dig up on the place. And I've been working on restoring this house, not renovating, for the last year, trying to learn the old techniques of plaster and tearing out all the really old nasty carpets and bad drywall and trying to retain the plaster and learning the techniques of plaster. And it's been an absolute blast. So I wanted to share with you guys what I've been through in this past year, what I've learned, what I've failed on, what I've succeeded with, and generally what has happened in the past year here. Without further ado, let's get into the tour and I'll show you guys my beautiful house that Charles S. Brown built. So starting here with the outside of my home, you can see a lot of the walls I stripped this fall before it got too cold to do so. The thing that's coming up will be the cornice here. That should be happening sometime in the spring. And one of the hardest things we had to do was get a new water line dug up, so you can see the hole here and the new sidewalk, which had to be cut through, so that was really fun. But the original pipe was lead, so that was one of the major things we had to do up front to get water in the house at all. Coming down the side here, you can see some of the older windows and things like that, and as we come around to the back, you can start seeing some of the new ones. One of the very largest things that I did, and each of them took about a week, was restoring the windows up here. All the sashes are new, built in an old way. On old machines, they're mahogany as opposed to pine, what they used to be. But all the pediments and all the trim around the outside, all the sills themselves, everything was taken off, cleaned up, repainted, and put back out. And it's made a huge difference, as you can see, between the difference in this window and these ones here. They look spectacular, and it's one of the more exciting things. Now, another note out here, one of the first things I did, even before I started the YouTube channel, was this wall here was threatening to fail on me. So we had to rebuild that wall because it was collapsing out. And actually this wall here, you can see there's a little weird dip right there. That's actually because this is existing and this didn't exist at all from about here up. This never even, or didn't exist, and so we had to completely rebuild that. All of the walls on these two sides have been completely pointed. Not with, you know, the most matching materials or anything. They're just trying to stop the bleeding. And then you can see up there, that was bubbled out and threatened to fail as well. So if you have an old house like mine with a flat roof, fix your gutters, because that's what's caused all the damage here. And you can see a lot of that damage on the inside as well, which we'll go get to. Back inside now. We're up here on the 3rd floor. I figured we'll start from the top and work our way to the bottom. One of my favorite little features in this area, just to prove that I'm up on the 3rd floor, is a look down the stairs. You can see all the way to the 1st floor. I actually use this quite often to call my girlfriend Kim, that you guys know. And say, you know, if you need something or if she's up here doing something, you can easily call up. It's really nice. This is the only room in the house that actually had a drop ceiling. Why it had a drop ceiling? Not quite sure, but it had one. And when I got past the drop ceiling, there was, of course, a drywall ceiling behind that. And that's when I found my good buddy over here on the chair, Chippy. Chippy is our mummified squirrel and somewhat the mascot of the house, I believe. Or at least I assume anyways. But he's gonna stay with the house. I know the Victorians had quite the fascination with mummies. So why not keep our little mummy buddy? I think it makes perfect sense, especially since we're staying period correct. I think Chippy's a perfect little piece for the house. And I mean, you know, he was here when we got it, so he's lived here longer than we have, so we gotta keep him. Now into this next room here, this will eventually be me and Kim's bedrooms, but we had to rip a lot of the plaster out here, and you might be able to see why right there. This is actually in the mansard roof. You can see where the brick ends and the wood begins. Well, that's where the mansard is. So basically everything under that wood would be the cornice and then the stone front. But I need to know how bad this was. How bad was the condition of it? Turns out it's not actually that terrible. Most of the roof is really dry. It's a good testament to slate to know that it had never really been messed with. And it's still shedding water beautifully. The same cannot be said for the dormers here. You can see that light right there. Yeah, that's straight sky. Oddly enough though, it doesn't leak terribly unless the wind really comes in at that angle. For the most part, it does still shed water okay. However, it is something that in the next 6 months has to be repaired because yeah, I don't want to run the risk of that being open for much longer than it has to be anymore. So something coming soon for sure. We did get a new TPO roof. Is it perfect? Is it brilliant? No. Will it have to be replaced? Probably in the near future, yes. However, right now it is shedding most of the water. We haven't had too many issues with it recently, so you know, fingers crossed, knock on wood, that we don't have any problems in the future. But this is one of the very first things we did after tuck pointing, was getting a new roof on it, because keeping this thing dry is, you know, priority number one. You gotta stop the water coming in, because you start trying to repair stuff with the water coming in, you're gonna have a bad time. So we got the roof on, and yeah, it's been working mostly well. So coming down here to the second floor, one of the larger items I've gotten done is pretty apparent pretty quickly. That light right there is about the most beautiful thing on the planet. When we got this place, the electricity was extremely scary. I had one outlet in the basement that would work. Now I have like 8 outlets and 4 lights. So that right there is a thing of beauty. It's actually wired to the one that's on the first floor as well, so you can turn them all off in unison. You can see some of the wiring here on the floor. The option was either to rip up the floor or rip out the ceilings with the beautiful plaster that I'll show you guys in just a moment downstairs on the first floor. And of course I had to choose the floor because this is just pine, and I believe these would have been carpeted floors. You can see some of the ornate plaster here. That is a very big deal. It helps a whole lot when walking and moving around the house. And as you can see, when we throw the switch, beautiful. This switch will be changed out to the push button ones. I have them, I just didn't have them when I put that in. But still, that is the most amazing thing ever. So this is the main master bedroom. A lot of cleaning up has been done in here. Although I have to say it is still a little bit dirty because we have been using it for storage and things like that. And obviously running electrical, which creates weird little hazards on the floor. We have the bathtub that we're going to be putting into the main bathroom on this floor in the original tub, which was here. This one I can't find a date on. That one is 1896, and so should be almost perfect for the house. It also has our Halloween decoration in there, which is pretty creepy. I have to say, I think my dad did that. Nice joke, Dad. One of the larger things I started experimenting with in this room is cleaning the plaster, because almost all of the plaster and the medallions and everything in this house have so many coats of paint on them you can no longer recognize the shapes. And so I started with this one, and so you can see a lot of the details here, these little buttons here, and things that you couldn't see when I first started. So you can see I've got this part of this pretty cleared out, but you see how everything's a bit muddier. Can't see any of those points up here. It's because they're super duper full of paint. So, you know, slowly getting it back off there so I can make this house look like the day it was built. So yeah, lots of work I have to do like that, especially the medallions, which are gonna take a very long time, but are quite fun to clean if I do say so myself. So here we can follow this electrical tract into the next room. These are for the 2 parlors that are downstairs, which you guys will see in a second. The 2 grandest rooms in the house, those 2. This would have been the second master bedroom. We believe it would have been the man of the house bedroom, because this window here is the Jefferson window. It opens all the way up from the floor, so you can see it runs all the way down there. So there's actually a balcony back out there, which we'll end up having to put back at some point because we had to tear it down to do the tuck pointing, because that's still problem wall. And the real big thing about this room is all of the really gross carpet I had to remove at the very beginning, and just kind of getting it together and cleaned up. Most all of these rooms up here on the second floor were so full of junk that you couldn't operate in them whatsoever. So it was a full 2 months of cleaning before I even started the YouTube channel. And then a few months of cleaning afterwards just to get going in each individual room. Now that's just kind of getting to the back of the house on the second floor, where I've done, probably most of the work, including this wall here, which is all cracked and really messed up. I ran plaster on this entire wall. It's got a really weird shadow on it now coming from the hallway. Along with that first attempt of plaster was the Maids Stair Handrail here, which was painted completely white. This Newel Post and the top rail there are walnut, and this is a pine beadboard, which I really, really love, and took a very long time to clean out all the grooves. A few people always asked when I showed this, oh, I wonder what's behind it, just to re-clarify so I don't get more questions about it. There's no such thing as behind it. It is this wall. It goes all the way down to the first floor, right on this quarter anyways. It goes all the way down to the first floor, and it makes up that wall. That wall is extremely thin and holds no weight, or at least let's hope not. No, I know it doesn't, but I think it came out really cool. It was one of those things where I just needed to see it done so I could have one big win for this area in here. All the woodwork back here was all painted, so I've been slowly getting that all stripped off. This room here is the original bathroom, which we had to completely strip out to nothing because they had put a lot of textured stuff, well, texture patterns on all the walls and stuff, and it was just, it was not good looking. So this is one room that we actually took the plaster completely off. We did find the original beadboard. You can see these rails here, and so the beadboard will be going back on these walls. Of course, it won't be the original stuff because it was extremely beat up. So we'll get some replacements for that and make this place shine again, and we'll get that oak tub in here. We have a marble top sink, and I can't wait to see those come into place, but the amount of plaster removed from this room was quite a lot. In fact, you can see a little bit of the remnants of that ugly texture up there that was on top of the plaster. Maybe in hindsight that would have been easier just to take that off, but also having this area open has been a godsend when it comes to running electrical, because I do have an up and down route for wires between the hallway downstairs and this restroom, so it has been helpful regardless. I almost forgot, but this entire floor here, actually, before we even get the bathroom out, had to be completely redone. So this is new flooring we put in. It's of the era of the house, or maybe a little bit older, but it's the exact same size as the old stuff. You can see the transition here. But yeah, it was a big deal to get this back in because it means we could safely come through here and carry heavy things through here. It hasn't given us any problems since. No pop-ups, no weird boards. Everything has stayed down permanently, even though it's all top nailed. So pretty good here. Pretty happy with it. You can see again the big change between here and there. I know a lot of people were very mad about these seams, but simply put, feathering these boards in meant cutting those square nails, and you can't really feather underneath a wall because literally the floor was put down, then the walls on top of that. So this is all just underlayment. I don't know if this floor or that floor will necessarily get moved, but I can put a transition piece right there, like most of these doors had anyway. So I'm not too worried about those cuts. So coming into this room now, this is the library, and this is the room that's probably seen the most work out of any of the rooms in the house. Mostly because I'm trying to prepare this for a space for me to move into. I had to completely strip this fireplace, firstly with the inappropriate material, which is a chemical stripper, and then secondly with a heat gun, which I wouldn't recommend for most things, but for this, it came out to be the most gentle approach. So I can find these original Eastlake, patterns everywhere, and something I can recreate for the future because I know what these all look like, and I can paint these back on. So this was a huge find because this is just painted ugly brown. Of course, with that, we found the history of it too. It was made by a guy named Pickle, who worked very closely to the original owner of the house, Mr. Brown. So we know that they would have known each other. And all of these walls were just failing plaster in here, and these are exterior walls. Obviously, you see there's windows in them, so of course. But I had to redo and learn plaster on this. Sometimes successfully, sometimes less than. Lesson learned, don't do plaster in the summer. It's way too hot for that. But you can see old, new plaster. This had completely failed up here, and basically I just tapped on it with my hand, like knocking on a door to figure out what was bad, what wasn't. But this winter, this is all going to get completely done. I did clean up the ceiling in here. This is one of those ceilings that have been completely dried over or drywalled over in the past. And so I ripped all the drywall down. That was the only moldy part of this house, was the drywall, because drywall is an inferior product when it comes to walls than plaster. So it does not hold up to moisture nearly as well, and therefore molds. But I've got that completely cleaned out, got these areas done. We even tuck pointed the tops of the walls here, inside the wall, and anything before I plastered. Behind here, this window was having a huge problem. That ought to be re-tuck pointed. This wall or floor here, you can also see the seams. This had to be completely rebuilt as well because the water had come down this wall, as I showed you guys outside with that big bumped out area. We corrected that, and then we had to come and correct this because the water had seeped in here and this heavy radiator had compressed the floor a bit. Mostly it was just in the boards themselves though. I didn't have to do anything with the beams, thank goodness, or else that would have been real fun. But yeah, so we have a perfectly good floor and good to go here. Also found a nice wasp's nest in there. Luckily it was a unoccupied one, so I was able to remove that, which was, yeah, it was nice to see that get out of there. And then here you can see some of the plaster failures I've had. Again, don't do plaster in the summer. It's way too hot for it unless you have a way to cool the space you're working on. So, lesson learned. And that can be corrected now that we're back in winter. This was the maid's room here, and we cleaned this floor off. There was a plywood on it, and the amount of nails in this floor was really ridiculous. There was also a lot of stuff stuck to the walls and various things. This place had been messed with more than a lot of the other rooms in the house. It's of course also less ornate. We also have a lot of failing plaster in here, which I need to take care of and get flattened out. I think most of these walls in here will probably come down to nothing, so they're easier to build back up again. Not as much work done in here quite yet. I have started doing a lot of wiring in this room, trying to get it ready. Again, this would be one of the rooms I use initially when I move in, so trying to get that in. Of course, I'd love to, again, as everybody asks, why don't you put the ceilings up? I'm trying to get my HVAC system and my electrical ran first, because doing or cutting holes in the drywall after it's back up will not be very fun. So with that comes inspections and quite a bit of money to go ahead and pay for the system. So working on that first, and then we'll get to that point. So coming back into the hall now, that goes back up to the third floor where we started. This goes back to the first floor where we're heading at the moment. So most everything I've done on this floor, besides the kitchen, has just been testing, trying to figure out exactly what everything was, you know, just curiosity getting to me. So like this archway here, which is really pretty, coming over and looking and seeing, okay, what's underneath all that white paint? And this is actually what one of these would look like, minus the corners that will probably hit as furniture came up and down. And you can see one before, when it had all that thick coat of white paint on it, many, many layers. And then of course there's some gold up there in the paint. And so, you know, just kind of testing out, seeing what's underneath these layers of, well, just years and years of people living here and changing things. This Newel Post was a gift, which is really awesome. We were actually missing our Newel Post here. So that'll be something in the very near future that will get reinstalled. All of the electrical running into it so I can put a Newel Post on top. We've done a little bit of poking and prodding at the woods, the shellacs, just to see what the original colors were. Obviously, this is a bit lighter than it should be because I probably pulled a bit much of the shellac off. But reanimating the colors of things like this in the doors, you get just really beautiful reds here on the cherry side of the door, the other side being oak. And so lots of kind of poking at the structure, if you will, just trying to figure out what colors were, stripping medallions like that one up there. So you can get more of the texture back and you can see more of the flowers, the bouquets, the leaves, and just really figuring out what things are supposed to be. So one of the things I've been working on here has nothing to do necessarily with my house, but this door here belongs to my neighbor. I'm trying to show her what's possible with paint stripping. This was covered in about 3 layers of lead paint, which is really wonderful to get off, but you know, I can fix this door and show her, hey, look, you know, because this is something she was going to throw away because she thought it was completely shot, and it's not. I think the board's cherry, and actually was given a piece of cherry by a friend to replace this little bit that's missing here by the lock set that was also missing. So I'll be able to replace that corner and fix that up. So that's something that'll be coming here in the near future. Again, in the hallway, lots of the electrical. This is tied to that switch we threw earlier, and it's awesome. We also have one in the back there, right there. That's tied to that same set as well. So you have 3 locations to turn it off and on. And into the parlors, you can see we enter through these absolutely gorgeous pocket doors. There's 3 sets of them. So one there, and one right there that you can see just past the ladder. In these rooms, again, most of everything that's happened in here is all about kind of picking at and figuring out what was wrong with things. So, you know, picking at paint here and seeing what's under it. Picking at the old paint here and seeing what the medallion's actual shape was. Of course, very minimal, very non-invasive, just with a dental pick, just kind of picking away at flakes of paint. Because, you know, you get curious about these things. What did it actually look like? And I'm driven by things like that. So the more I can find out about what this room looked like, the better. Because these are the rooms, these 2 parlors, are probably the reason why I bought the place to begin with. Because, I mean, look at this shutter bank and the way it looks. It's just absolutely stunning, and you can't get that in a modern house, and you really can't get it in very many old houses either, because these things typically don't survive. So, you know, just making sure that I preserve everything here. These ones are folded in, by the way. For those who don't know, these fold into panels, the shutters. So this is the shutter here. As you can see, comes out. Comes the shutter, and when you don't need it, simply just push it back into the wall, and paneling it becomes. Another thing you might have noticed in this room is all of the artwork and various things. Of course, we've been looking at wallpapers, and I've started to collect a lot of antiques. Been really into the Newel Post, the Art Nouveau Newel Post lamps, and trying to figure out how to get as many as possible, because I think they're absolutely gorgeous. We've been getting clocks and all these chairs, because when you have a house this big and you want to restore it to its original aesthetic, well, you have to go with antiques. So the original owner's wife as well was a organist, and so this is one thing I had to buy pretty much out of the gate. This is an old pump organ, and so you would, these 2 pedals here, pump them back and forth. It would create air that you could sit through the bellows, and it's an organ, you know. That's how it works. It's a reed system, just like any other organ, but on a very small scale. And I would say about most of these items I've purchased, but there's a lot of ones that have been given to me from you guys, the viewers. People donate things to me all the time, books and furniture and giant pieces, and I can say that's one thing that's been absolutely incredible about the YouTube community is how, well, at least my YouTube community, is how amazing you guys are, and how kind, and how, I don't know, I'll never know how I'll pay you guys back. But I do thank you greatly. You might have noticed behind me that the mantle is missing. There would have been a mantle here. It's one of the 2 mantles in this house that are missing. And very early on, because of the YouTube and me talking to the Campbell House, which is a local house museum here in St. Louis, a guy had mentioned to the curator of that museum that he had my tiles to one of my missing mantles, which would have been the one here in the front room. And I was amazed enough to find out that they actually are my missing tiles that belong here. And so I think that's one of the bigger accomplishments of this channel and this year, is the fact that I was able to find a missing piece of my house. That I think that doesn't happen to very many people, that you find the exact piece for what you were missing that had been gone for a decade. So that in itself is quite the accomplishment in my eyes this year. I think one of the cooler things that's happened also this year is this collection here, which we had Phil come out, a friend of ours, and do some metal detecting. So these are all finds from the yard. And a lot of you may know, but for those who don't, the second owner, and when we went into the basement, you'll see where he worked, ran a veterinarian clinic out of the basement. And these, if the camera will focus, are dog tags, vaccine tags from 1928 and 1929. I have 5 of these little things. And to know that I have something with such a direct correlation to one of the owners of the house is absolutely incredible. Along with that, we have a 1889 peso in there, Mexican peso. The year the house was starting to be built was 1889, so it's really cool to have something like that. And just all of these various really cool things are something that, you know, I set on this journey, I didn't know I'd find such amazing cool things. Like this little lock I think here is really cool. This is supposedly, it's missing its top lock bit, but the base here says St. Louis, and supposedly these were sold at the World's Fair, which I think is really interesting. So that sits at about 1904, 1903. Here in the second parlor, still I know you probably saw it on the last one. What are those yellow wires? Well, those are my electrical wires. And why are there two coming out of here? Well, it's because I'm going to have one line on a dimmer and one line just regular electrical, because this house when it was built had half electrical and half gas chandeliers. So both these two parlors in the front room and probably the dining room will all get that treatment. So you can turn the gas section of the electrical down to gas light levels like it would have been back in the day, so the lighting could have been period correct. So again, trying my best to make sure everything is as period correct as possible without actually having gas pumped into my house any longer for lighting, because I think that's a little bit overkill. This bathroom here coming down the hall was the butler's pantry at one point. In fact, this doorway did not exist, it was added later. But this was turned into a bathroom by the second owner, and we can tell by the tiles here, which are a tile called Vitrolite, which was only produced in the 20s, 30s, and potentially 40s before the two companies that made it shut down. They're glass, actually. But this is the next project. We'll be taking this back, and I'm going to turn it into a powder room, take out the bathtub, and this will be something that'll be coming here very, very shortly in the next few, probably month. As you can see, I've already started taking down some of the tiles, just trying to figure out how hard they are to get off without breaking them, and turns out not too bad. So I'm gonna take these all off and find a homeowner with a 1920s house or 30s house who would love to have some Vitrolite tile, and try to donate it to one of you lovely people who have given me so much. And coming down from the bathroom, which is right here, into the hallway, you can see we've started stripping a lot of the paint in here. All the woodwork was painted, including this little silly window, which I'm not sure what its purpose was. I'm assuming it was to let light in when this was a butler's pantry. But we started trying to get all the woodwork back. We've got this door almost back, and that beautiful, beautiful wood grain. I don't know if I mentioned it already or not, but all of the doors in the house are this curly pine, which was really amazing to see because it's fairly rare. I've heard from somebody that potentially that this tree doesn't exist any longer, that it's extinct. I don't know that to necessarily be true. However, I know the only place I can buy this stuff from currently pulls logs out of a river from old milling operations, and one at about every 400 pine logs has the curly character to it. So pretty nifty that all this is in here. It's not walnut or anything else, but man, are they really beautiful. And this is a very holographic grain to it, which is really wonderful. So this here is our dining room. Again, with more things I've collected over the years. You might have seen the library upstairs. This is actually a big stack of the flooring I'm going to use up there. And this here is an example of what that flooring will end up looking like. In fact, if you can see behind us here, the line here, that is what I'm mimicking, because this is an original inlaid floor. Nothing too super fancy, just these two little stripes. I do think this pattern here, though, where they've made the connection to turn the wood, is rather beautiful. I believe this is called a herringbone joint, and it's really, really gorgeous. And I plan on doing this to the library floor upstairs with this wood I have in the stack over here. And not that anything's been done with this, but I do always love showing this mantle and the tile off because it's probably the best preserved one in the house. It's missing its summer cover right now. It's not missing it, it's sitting right there against that radiator. But I've got it open so I can see more into it, and just really the ornate carvings along these spindles and stuff are just really pretty. Tough to see, but I'm assuming there would have been some either gilding, like some gold, or some black ink or something in there to make those really pop, because there's a lot of it all over the place. And in fact, this one's a lot easier to see because it looks like it has some ink or something in it, and those are obviously a leaf of some sort. So, but amazing. I plan on cleaning this back up. I don't know if it'll be next year or not, but this will be a room that'll be done somewhat-ish soon because it is in my second phase setup. So, and of course I do have a lot of plaster to fix in this room because of that bulge above that window. This room actually has really gorgeous plaster. So that'll be something we have to fix. And of course the plaster medallion in here is one of a kind in the house. Most of them rooms share medallions. There's 2 for the parlors that match, 2 for the bedrooms upstairs that match. But this one stands alone as its own independent thing. And I love that it has the grapes and everything. So this is something I'm gonna start patching this roof together, just putting plaster screws and washers up and making sure everything sucks back up. That way we can go ahead and fix the ceiling to perfect status again, because it's too beautiful to let it go, that's for sure. This door here is a swinging door, so it swings both ways. The hinges, it's got a double hinge on it, and it has these really amazing push plates on it. And if you push it open, it leads into the kitchen, which is a bit of a mess if I have to say so myself. You can see they've painted the other side of that door, which we've worked on stripping and double checking that it is curly pine like everything else is in the house. And of course it is, because everything is in the house. But there's a lot of work that has to be done in here, and a lot of work that has actually been done in here. This is one of the first rooms I started taking apart, mostly because it was completely 1960s in here. The cabinetry was awful and not great, and it was filthy and gross, and I just wanted to get it in a dumpster. I had a dumpster that week, and it was just get everything out of here and into a dumpster, including the floor. The floor had some kind of overlayment put on it. You can see the linoleum that was on top of the overlayment here. The only reason I haven't removed that piece is because of the radiator right there. Those things are heavy and they work, so I don't want to get rid of them. My boiler system is operational, which is why I'm in a t-shirt now, because it is rather cold outside. But in the next year at least, this kitchen will be fully operational. It's one of the easier rooms to get together, even though I might not be using my final house appliances quite yet. But the sink will go here. You can see some of the original beadboard there. And so that's how the entire kitchen will be laid out. The sink was always right here because of the old lead pipes and stuff. I can tell that's where it was. So a sink here. This is the smokestack. So for that you would have needed to connect. You can see there's a hole right there, or a patch where a hole was, where the tube would feed up for the exhaust of the stove. And so that's where the stove has to go. So back into place. I have a really awesome 1920s one that's going to be going there. And this used to be the door to the butler's pantry. Like I said, the other door didn't exist on the other side, so this is the bathroom now. Yeah, this little butler's pantry door here will be sealed back up, and the fridge will live there. So that's the plan basically for the kitchen. Not a whole lot of cabinetry to speak of. I do have to build one cabinet on this side of this door. Kim, my girlfriend, wants me to hide a dishwasher under there. I will see about doing that, of course. I know a lot of people want it to be next to the sink, but because of where the original sink was, and because the chimney is right next to it, I don't really have much of a choice. Luckily the water is very close to this, so it wouldn't be that hard to hook it up. So that's the plan currently. So right next to where the butler's pantry door used to be is another door. This door leads to the basement, so let's go down there and I'll show you guys a lot of the work that's been done down here, because quite a bit has been done. So just here at the bottom of the stairs, you can see there's a bit of a mess here because a lot of things have been ripped out. But the first thing you might hear is a bit of noise that sounds like fire or burning. And that's because the boiler, which is this thing right here, is on and functional. It was one of the things we had to get going rather quickly when we first got the place, because we needed heat to be able to continue our work, or at least make it comfortable enough to want to work up here. And that was achieved. Of course, we had a little bit of issues this year as well, but she's back up, she's going, and I think it's going to be a rather nice and warm winter for us in the house, because we have this thing functional again. And it's quite a joy to see this thing firing up and the smoke coming out of the smokestack again. It really gives the house a heartbeat. And I don't think I'll ever not have a boiler system in this house, because I love the heat it gives off. I love the radiators, and this was an amazing addition to get back up and going. Another thing that you can see is obviously some of the electrical here, but more than that, you can see that there's these little white stripes down all the things. That's where plaster used to be. This entire basement was actually finished in plaster, if you can believe it or not. It's also really tall, so It's a quite usable space. We've been using the space to clean this all out, but we had all of the plaster on this entire basement down here on the ceiling removed so we can get to and hang all these or put all these wires up and manage our electrical systems. And furthermore, the ceiling was not doing so well, so we had to remove it. We've been using this area right here as our chandelier storage. As I told you guys before, we need half gas, half electric chandeliers, and you can see the upturn bits were for gas, even though these have been converted to electric, and the downturn were for electric, so normal bulbs. So that's the era my house was built in, and so it's the lights that we need. Unfortunately, they're a little more rare than the usual just straight gas, which is what this one is right here, or the even more common electrical, just straight electrical, which is that one there. So we've been searching out and finding various things, and we'll use different pieces in different areas, but it's good to have a collection when you have a house like this to, you know, figure out where certain things need to go so you can start planning ahead and getting your lighting ready. So coming back down to the front of the basement, so this would be the front of the house. We're actually staying in the bay. You can see this wall that moves in. It squares back up right here. But this is actually where our water source comes in. So you can see that big deep hole that was in the front, the new sidewalk and everything, and this is what they put in. This is what all those holes were about. This is our new water system, our new water inlet. But it's about 1.5 inch or maybe 2-inch copper, so we have a huge water supply for whatever the future throws at us. So good, clean, lead-free water for the win. This is another, well, it was a big expensive thing, and it's good that we have it. So again, no lead in our water, which is a really good thing, and I think a lot of the houses around here probably still have their original lead inlet pipes, and we're glad we don't have to deal with that. Now coming over to the other side of the basement, this would be the back underneath the dining room and the library, which are, you know, dining room being first floor, library being second floor. We've started collecting these amazing pieces like this, which is a needle shower, a really cool little fixture, which will be going down here in this room. This was a bathroom probably in the teens, 20s, that was added into the house. And so we're going to use 19 teens, 20s fixtures, which this needle shower fits perfectly into. For those who don't know what a needle shower is, these bars right here have little holes in them, and when you hit the bottom switch here, or bottom handle, little jets of water come out of those little needle-shaped holes. Therefore, that's where it gets its name, needle shower. Of course, this looks a little bit low, and that's because it's just sitting on the ground, but it actually would have been mounted on the walls. You can see the little feet there that mount. So that'll be mounted down here. And you might have noticed the tile in this room. Earlier I said that we had a veterinarian who ran a business down here. Well, this was his practice, and he had great taste in mosaic floors. So this is where he would have ran his practice, and I think this is absolutely wonderful. We started cleaning this up. It was really dirty like it is over there, so much duller, gross. And my lovely girlfriend has done a pretty good job about starting to clean these things up and get an idea of what this amazing floor will look like. One of our absolute favorite features in the house, and really blessed to have it of all places in our basement. So this would have been the door here, which is now currently blocked, but we'll open back up. You can see it on the side of the house. So, you know, if somebody does come and stay here, they'd have their own little private room down here, which I think is really rad. And we started ripping off these old acoustic tiles. Yes, we've had them inspected. They don't have any asbestos in there or anything like that, but these were acoustic tiles to stop if there was, you know, a dog having, or a cat having surgery or something done, it wouldn't be so loud in the rest of the house. So these were acoustic tiles for that purpose. Now this here is on the back of the wall in that room, the vet clinic. This is our panel boxes. 400 amp service we've brought in here. We really went overkill on it because we didn't want to have, well, we wanted to future-proof the place and make sure that we had enough electricity always in this house. So we went big, I guess, and it should be enough to power everything we need in this place. And this was a huge milestone, getting good, reliable power in here, because the original power we had come through here and messed with the breakers, and some of them would spark at me, some of them wouldn't work at all. I had no idea where all but one went even. So
I just kept everything off in this house except for one outlet. And most of the work that was done in this house that I've shown you guys so far was done literally on one box, 2 little outlets, because it's the only ones I trust in the house, and I had to run the extension cords all the way through the house. Of course, I still have to run extension cords all the way through the house, but I have some up in the kitchen that I know are reliable and good and safe, so I can run them a little less far. So this was a huge, huge milestone to get this working functional. It adds more life to the house. There's always lights on in here now, and it looks alive when you drive by at night, and that's really what I want. I want this house to not be the decrepit one on the block. I want it to be one that people see coming back, people see coming back to life, because it's a very deserving place, and I'm just happy to be the one doing it. And lastly, before we leave the basement here, you can see that one of these concretes is not like the other. Obviously this concrete is new, this little river of concrete as it looks, and so are these pipes coming out of the ground. These will be our new stacks, and this is our new sewer lateral. We've completely replaced it because it was pretty broken up and water wasn't getting down and out and through, and so it had to be completely replaced. So that allows us to add our 2 stacks back, tie in our 1 remaining old stack, which is actually for the sink upstairs, which is in that far corner over there. And so we've tied that back in, and this goes all the way back to the backyard, and now it drains freely again. So glad to have that up and operational. So now we can get water in, get water out. Now we just need to get water to where it needs to be in the house, and we'll be good. So I just got to get a few of those things done, talk to a few people, and yeah, spend a little bit more money than I want to. But that's okay. We'll get it moving and get it going. As long as I can save up and get it done, we'll be good to go. So that's it, guys. That's what this place has come to this year. It may not always look like there's been a lot done, but to be honest, there's been a lot of little nitpicky things done. And you know, each window, for instance, took an entire week to do, scraping and getting all the paint off. But it's one of those things, I'm doing it the right way. It's mostly me doing it myself. And of course, you know, there's the problem sometimes of not having enough money to complete the next step, if that makes any sense to anybody, like completing the essential air system so I can put the ceilings up. And I came into this project knowing that I didn't have enough money to complete it right away, that I'd have to piecemeal everything, that it'd have to be slow boated, that it'd have to be done over a period of time. But I also coming into this project knowing that if I didn't take on this project, it could have easily been destroyed. This house is an amazing survivor. She's a really pretty old gal, and somehow nobody changed her very much. Most of her features are original and intact and beautiful, and she's a good candidate for preservation. And had I not taken on the role, would the person after me take on that role? And I don't think so. So I have given up a lot of what I would have maybe done other in life to do this instead. And I don't feel like I've given up much. It's been a really wonderful ride, and I cannot wait to see what the next year holds, what the next 5 years hold. I think so much of my life will be lived in this house, and so much of my children's life, and I think this becomes a part of me, like many people's houses do. And I'm really, really, we'll use a British term here, chuffed to bits that I get to participate in something so amazing. So to close this out, guys, what's this year been to us? What's this year been to the house? I think it's been a lot of things. For me, it's been a huge learning experience. I've learned so much about history, architecture, my city, on and on and on, about human kindness, about learning just how great the world actually is and that things aren't all doom and gloom all the time. For the house, I think she's learned how to be loved again. I think she knows how to shake off the years of neglect and how to get right back into the swing of things. And in this year, there's been a lot of ups and downs. There's been breaks and failures and doing things the wrong way and finding out things the hard ways. It's been a very expensive year, of course. I knew it would be. And progress has been slow at times and faster at others. Slow mostly because it's expensive. You have to save up for these things. But it's been such a pleasure, and probably the most exciting year of my life. To maybe some, stripping paint and revealing wood isn't the most exciting thing in the world, or are seeing something breathe life, like seeing the smoke come through the smokestack for the first time. But for me, that's what I live for. It's the excitement of it. It's so therapeutic to work on a building, because I feel in many ways, once you work on something like this, you kind of in a lot of ways repair yourself. You know, you repair your soul. And for me, for this channel, for everything, it's repaired my faith in humanity. I never expected the kindness that I've received from this channel, or the enthusiasm, or just the shared beautiful stories, but it's been wonderful. So best, busiest, craziest, most amazing year of my life. And that's where it comes into the next topic, which is you all. You guys have been so overly kind to me and my girlfriend Kim throughout this entire project. The encouragement, the kind words, the letters, the coming and meeting us, the coming on tours to the house, the giving up of antiques to us, things we never expected, kindness we never expected to receive, and it's been so abundant. And we thank you deeply, and we really love the fact that a lot of you guys have shared with us that this house has helped you through hard times, or this project has helped encourage and light the fire in you to learn something new, or to try something new, or to get into preservation, or to try and save something. People that have done this whole project before, and people who are just starting just like us. It's really amazing to know that we have an audience that cares so deeply about this place, and cares so deeply personally for me and Kim. It's really, really rad. I guess it's the word I'm gonna use. It's just amazing, guys. So I don't think we'd be nearly as far along as we are without you guys. You guys really complete the project, and I think you guys should all take ownership of this. It's your house too. So we can't wait to have you by one day, really. I'll figure out a way to make sure all 129,000 of you guys get in at some point. But yeah, it's been brilliant, guys. And I can't wait to share the next 6 months with you, the next year, the next 10 years, the next 30 years of my life, restoring this house and hopefully others. You know, hopefully we can get more preservation done in the city of St. Louis, and hopefully the city of St. Louis can thrive after we're done with many of these things. And that's my goal in life, is to make my house, my neighborhood, my city, and people everywhere proud of what this all is. And as I've said before, this is my great love letter to architecture, to my neighborhood, to St. Louis, and I guess now to you guys. Thanks, guys. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week. Wonderful, wonderful rest of your year. And we'll see you guys in the new year. Bye-bye.